What's good, fellas? This is Trey. Welcome to this presentation. Today, I want to talk about the difference between pseudo masculinity and authentic masculinity. Pseudo means false, fake, um, basically some bullshit, right? Authentic, we know, means real, legitimate, genuine, that kind of thing. So, what is the difference? The pseudo masculine man, what does that look like? It usually looks like the guy with the big ego, the guy who's trying to, essentially, it's like the bully, the guy who's trying to like one up everybody and act like he's better than everyone. And he's usually is loud as fuck for no reason, or he doesn't, he's uncalibrated. He doesn't look at care about the well-being of others. He just wants what he wants, and he's willing to like step on anybody for it. He has no morals, no ethics. He may be, basically trying to hide that he's actually an insecure little boy. He may be moving literally off of the validation of others, right? He's seeking the validation of others. He's not coming from a place of self-security or independence or self-love. He's coming from a place of, I'm trying to make everyone like me. I want to be famous because I don't really love myself, so I need others to love me, or I need to, it's coming from a external source. His power is not internal, it's external, right? He may have grown up in an unhealthy manner. Maybe he was abused as a kid, because, I'm just going to be real. Like, these guys that act this way, I don't necessarily think they want to be like that, but a lot of times they've been through some shit and they just came out of it not in the best way, so they end up being bullies and stuff like that. And I can speak on this because I was a bully at one point in my life. I do remember being a bully because I was being bullied. You see what I'm saying? So it's like how they say hurt people, right? So that pseudo masculinity, you can see it's like it's just like an unhealthy interpretation or unhealthy demonstration of masculinity, where it doesn't actually serve the person, like truly serve them. They think it's serving them, but it's not. It's making them worse. It's making them more unhealthy, and it doesn't serve others. It makes the environment worse, essentially. Right? Maybe it makes it better for them, but like in a like a selfish, egotistical way. And it's like people may even listen to them and let it slide or whatever, but they deep down they resent this person. They don't like him, they hate him, whatever, right? So that's that pseudo masculinity. That's that, that bravado, beating his chest, trying to be better than what he is, blah blah blah, right? Then you have authentic masculinity. And the thing about authentic masculinity is it can look, it's strange because it can look like, it can almost look like it's not even a masculine man, but if you really look clearly or you really have a strong perception for things, you can see, yeah, that man's actually very masculine. This is the man who doesn't need to yell and act tough and act hard and scream and all that shit. This is the man that can just relax in the environment. This is the man that is secure. This is the man that is not seeking validation. He doesn't need anything from anyone. This is the guy who it could even be the guy who's just like chilling, not saying a word. But when the time is right, he says something and it hits. This, a good example of this would be if you ever watch The Godfather. Right? The Godfather, the Godfather, he's not very loud or any of that shit, but he's extremely grounded in his masculinity. Right? And why is he so grounded? Now, what I will say is what's interested with because I want to be clear with this example. The Godfather was kind of, he's evil, he's doing evil shit. But even him, you could also see there was some, it's interesting, there was some goodness there. I want to say like, okay, that dynamic, you may look at something like that, like, okay, if somebody was raised in a mafia or that type of understanding, or as a gangster or whatever, there is going to be very hard for them to break that. I'm not saying they should use that as an excuse, but it's going to be hard for them to break that. But even him, you can kind of see there was some ethics there, and there was some morals there to some extent. You know, there was some values there. Okay? But why I'm using him as an example is because you can see that there was definitely a form of authentic masculinity there. Maybe there could be a better representation of it, a better communication of it, but you can see it's there because he was never like loud or overdoing anything. He was just kind of like, look, this is what needs to happen, and it is what it is. And he would, you know, tell people what to do and have people in position and whatever, right? But you can see there was some sense of authenticity to it. Okay, it just was used for the wrong reasons, okay? But basically, to me, the grounded masculine man, this is a man who's been through some shit. He's been through some shit. Like the old boy psychology, the old boy energy, the old boy mindset has been destroyed because he's went through some process that had to kill it. You know, maybe he's went through a tough life. Maybe he had like a big goal, and he went after that goal, and through the process of going after that goal, he had to basically kill his old self for the new self to emerge. The boy energy he had to kill the boy energy for the masculine, the manly energy to show up. Right? He had to go through a process. Right? But what happened is he went through that process, and instead of holding on to his old identity, holding on to his old ego and creating something to protect that, instead what he did is he allowed that ego or that energy or that identity to be completely destroyed. That means getting to the point where you may be crying, where you may be you know, just depressed for a little while or whatever, but you come out of that as something greater. It's almost like an example would be from my understanding, you know, when a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. The caterpillar goes into the cocoon, and when he's in the cocoon, he's in there, and then at some point he has to like go struggle and like he has to push, and it looks like it probably is a very painful experience. I would assume. I don't think like him trying to break out and trying to become a butterfly was just so pleasant of an experience. I'm pretty sure it was very difficult and very painful. But when he comes out, what happens? He's a whole new animal or insect or whatever it is. Like he goes from caterpillar to butterfly. This is a whole new identity. This is to me, it's a good example. It's like the boy literally transforms into a man. You go from one beingness, one energy, one form of energy, to a whole entire new beingness and a whole entire new form of energy. But it's, you know, it's you can also look at it like, okay, well, there may be, I don't know too much about the science of the caterpillar and butterfly, but I have a assumption. I would think there may be some caterpillars that go through that process and they don't break free. And I'm not sure. Maybe I need to look into that because I'm curious what happens. Because I'm sure I don't think every single caterpillar becomes a butterfly. So I wonder what is the difference. It may be it's now we're getting into something completely different, because now I'm looking at, how does that caterpillar butterfly thing work? I may have to look into that now because I find that interesting. Because when I'm looking at life, you have some men, or I should say some boys, who go through a certain process, may go through an experience, right? Can actually go through trauma and a difficult childhood, and that person can come out and become great. And then you may have another child that went through that, maybe his brother or his sister or whatever, and that person goes through a similar experience, but that person comes out as becoming a druggie or an alcoholic or things like that. And to me, the difference is, one, in my opinion, one was willing to go through the process and let that process destroy them, you know, just kick their ass basically and whoop them. But then they allowed that process to happen so that that old version of themselves could die and a new version could come out. And then you have others who go through that process, but they see themselves as a victim, and they try to protect themselves and try to hold on to their ego and hold on to their identity, and now they hate people and this and that. You see, to me, that's the difference. So if I ask myself, because from what I've heard and from, just speaking to people and things like that, when I went through my process of pickup, I didn't really become so masterful at game or pickup lines or anything. What actually happened to me was I just became very grounded in my masculinity. And once that happened, my results with women started to basically become more in alignment with what I wanted, right? I started to get the actual results that I've been seeking. The reason I got into pickup, I wanted results, and the results started coming once that old version of me died and the new version of me showed up. The boy psychology died and the man psychology showed up, right? The boy energy died and the masculine energy showed up. And not only did the masculine energy show up, it became grounded through the process. But there's some other processes I went through. Entrepreneurship helped me to become grounded in my masculinity. Learning how to deal with my emotions and my mind from going through a breakup, for example. These things, some people may look at them and say, oh, that was horrible or whatever. But if you really look at it, these things are opportunities for you to emerge as something better. A woman giving birth, they say that's the most painful, somehow they've measured pain that humans can experience. And I believe they said that's either number one or one of the top pains a human can experience is giving birth. But look what happens after that process. A child is born. If the woman is not strong enough to push, the child is not going to be born. And it's an unfortunate event. But if she pushes and the child comes out healthy, look, a new creation. What is life showing us? In order for something great to emerge, there must be a process that may not be the nicest and sweetest process, but it is necessary to kill the old, the old version of you, or the old, identity, or the old whatever it is, so something new can come about. Life shows us death and life is part of life. Something must die and something new takes its place. A father dies and his son takes his place. Right? The king dies and the prince takes his place. That is just life. So if we look at that from a psychological aspect, the boy psychology, the immature psychology, the victim mentality, whatever it is that you're in right now that is limiting you, that version of you needs to die. Think of it like that. How can you kill that version of you, but in a process where you can come out healthy? What I found is if you have proper guidance, proper support, right? Like back in the day, they had supposedly they still do it now in different places, like maybe Africa and I don't know, places like that. They still have these rituals that they do to turn a boy into a man, right? Depending on what tribe you go into or whatever, I'm sure they still have it going on, right? But what happens is during those rituals or those initiations, there is some elders there to watch over and guide the person. Some basically elder or someone who's been through the process to help guide the person to go through it in a healthy way. And what happens, why some men, they end up not becoming grounded in their masculinity because they may go through a process, go through a trauma, go through whatever, but they didn't have anyone to guide them through it properly so they could come out in a healthy way. So what I've done is I've basically reverse engineered what was my process. How did I become grounded in my masculinity? How did I make the transition from boy energy to man energy? How did I reclaim and ignite my masculinity after being emasculated? How did I awaken the 4 masculine archetypes of the king, warrior, magician, lover? How did I do that? I reverse engineered, and I looked at the processes or the experiences that I went through that were difficult, challenging, painful. But when I went through them, out came this greater version of myself. So what I've done is I've created a program that simulates that experience. It's very similar to what I went through. The only difference is you're going to get guidance through it. I'm going to show you how I went through it and how I was able to get through it in a healthy way. How I was able to unlock the king archetype. How I was able to unlock the magician, the warrior, the lover. How I was able to learn how to lead, how to become a leader in my life. How to become a warrior in my life, which I speak kind of more about being a beast. When I say warrior, I actually mean the beast. How to be more of a beast in my life. That's more aggressive essentially, but how to leverage that aggression in a positive way, right? Because we don't want to end up in jail. We don't want to end up violating anyone. We don't want to end up, you know what I mean? The point is to get a benefit ourselves and benefit others through our actions. How to tap into the magician. How do you get mental control over yourself? How do you learn how to deal with your mind when it's throwing stupid thoughts at you? How do you learn how to deal with your emotions when your emotions are trying to get you to take actions that will derail your efforts? And the lover, how do you learn how to love yourself? How do you learn how to love yourself? And then how do you learn how to love others? And not in a weird way, like in a way that is acceptable and people actually want to experience and be connected to you. You have to go through a process to get here. Reading a book's not gonna be good enough. Trying to figure it out on your own, it can happen, but it's more of like you're rolling the dice with that. You don't know what's gonna happen. If you're not where you want to be and you're trying to get there, you don't actually know how to get there. So you're kind of just walking into the dark, and it can happen. Because for me, it happened, right? It's not like I had someone who was telling me to go and do cold approach and go and do this. No, I just said, I want to be, I knew I wanted confidence, right? I knew I wanted confidence. I knew I wanted to be secure. And so I was intelligent enough to see that if I go through certain processes, it would bring that confidence to me. But I didn't know how long it was going to take. I didn't know how painful it was going to be, right? But now I do. So I can show you how to go through a similar process. If you want to become grounded in your masculinity, and I'll tell you the benefits of it. When you become grounded in your masculinity, you become capable to essentially achieve any goal. Because what happens is if you tap into these 4 masculine archetypes, you'll have the tools to achieve any goal. You have the tools to create more wealth, tools to cultivate more power, the tools to attract quality relationships. You'll have the tools, the assets, the attributes, the characteristics, whatever you want to call it. You'll have exactly what you need. It's already internal. It just needs to be unlocked through a process. The process will unlock it. It's like the beast is not going to come out until it's time to come out. The warrior, the king, these things, they're not going to come out just because you say, hey, king, show up. No. It needs to go through a process and be awakened. All right? So if you're interested, the program's called the Masculine Throne Initiation. This is basically like a one-on-one, us working together, but me essentially breaking down a path that we're going to be going through, a roadmap, an initiation process, a ritual process, whatever you want to call it. But by you going through this process, you will emerge as a grounded masculine man with the power, the confidence, the discipline, the focus, the mental freedom, the emotional mastery, right? The skills, everything necessary to create wealth, cultivate power, and attract quality relationships, period. So if you're interested, send me a private message. You could say, hey, what's up? I'm interested. Or you could just say Masculine Throne Initiation. If you message me and say Masculine Throne Initiation, I'll give you more details. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.